Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. My name is Chet Zar, and I'm your host. And this week, I've got a great interview with Bruce Mitchell. He is a fellow effects artist, still working in the industry, but he does these amazing fine art mask helmets, I guess you could call them. Really super cool. He's been in a bunch of the conjoined shows we've shown together many times, and he's just a great guy, really fun to talk to, really smart dude. So I know you are going to enjoy that. I'm going to make this short because it's Tuesday at 4:19 p.m. and I still have to edit the podcast together. And oh my God, so much is going on. It's crazy. Um, I got the first couple books, literally like two of the books shipped out. So the process is happening. The dystopia books are being shipped. Oh my Lord. It's crazy. So that's starting. My second NFT dropping Friday. I did my first one and it did really well. So that was great. So I'm just gonna keep following this thing and see where it goes. Um, uh, let's see what else. It's like uh, I'm so inspired for so many projects now. But I have so much stuff I have to get done still. I've got rewards still I have to finish for dystopia, but I'm just trying to take it slow and methodical and just get things done and get them out because I get overwhelmed because I've got just a ton of things I'm trying to do at once. It's ridiculous. Hopefully I'll get off this treadmill at some point before I die. Hopefully that's not the only way to get off the treadmill. I kind of have a feeling it is though. But yeah, so that's been a lot of, this whole NFT space is such a trip. I don't want to keep talking about it. I know some people hate it with a passion, but and I won't keep talking about it, but the community is so inspiring and amazing on there. It's crazy. It's really got me inspired to create a bunch of new work, and so cool, so cool. It's hard to, I've said before, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it until you're sort of in there amongst them. And so that's just a big thing going on. But I'm still trying to dig myself out of this hole I've gotten myself into over the last 5 years. And it's happening slowly but surely. I mean, getting those books out is huge. So now I got to go make a Kickstarter announcement that they're shipping, and the people whose addresses changed, because in 5 years people have literally moved like 3 times. It's crazy. So I got to make sure all the addresses are up to date, and I'm basically going to have to. Well, I did the backer kit thing. So backer kit is a fulfillment software to help you manage your reward fulfillment. But since this thing has been such a clusterfuck because of me, I'm basically going to end up having to just mail them out one by one, because I have to make sure everybody gets their book, that the address is right. So I can't really do any of this, take advantage of the backer kit. Auto, what is the word I'm looking for? Automization. Fucking wreck. Isn't that the word, automation? Oh my God, I've had such an insane day today. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like, being able to ship them all at once, like hit one button and then boom, spit out a bunch of labels, and then they're marked shipped. It's not going to happen. I have to do it manually one by one, but I'm getting it done. Oh, and I just found out it costs $100 to ship the book to Australia. So that's going to be fun. I got to figure that one out. It's crazy. It's crazy, but I'm maintaining. I'm happy. I'm doing well personally, feeling good about things. So I'm not in a bad way at all. Just it's just a lot of kind of activity happening all the time. So let's see. That's about all that's been going on. Isn't that enough? Let's do no, that's not. I guess it kind of is. I started Discord. That's kind of cool, but that's sort of like mainly for my patrons and collectors and stuff. But I'm trying to get the Dark Art Society Discord kind of connected to Patreon. That's just another thing. I shouldn't mention it until it's done. Having some difficulty there, but okay, let's just get on with it. If you want to join the Dark Art Society, you can support the podcast for $1 a month. Dark Art Society, patreon.com/Dark Art Society, and get your name read, get access to the Discord and the Facebook group. We really should get the Facebook group over to the Discord because Facebook is so awful. But that's where all the action is right now. We've got some changes to the website. Josh made, I forget what it was. It was, I think, a Discord widget, so you can join from, I don't know. It's just all too much for me. Sorry. Let's get on with it. Okay, so new subscribers. Senator Greaves. He's a great artist. Works in gaming and stuff. I got to have him on the podcast because he's one of my new NFT buddies, and he's a really cool guy. And we both like cool music, like the Minutemen and No Means No. Carl Steinhagen, thank you. Craig Vance, thank you. Let's see, Ray Martin. Thank you, Ray. Albert Fisk, Christy Clark, and Jason Farmer, another NFT dude. Well, he's not an NFT dude. I've known him for a long time, but he's done well in NFTs over the last year, I think, really, or 6 months. It's done really well. Thank you, Jason. Want to have Jason on the show too, if he'll come on. Yeah, that's a lot this week. Wow, cool. Well, thank you all for supporting. You're making it happen. We don't have to have commercials or any sponsorships or anything like that. And it's supporting it and allowing me to do this. So I really appreciate that. I really do. You keep supporting, I'll keep doing it. It's a bitch to do this podcast every week. Let me tell you, it's hard, but as long as you keep supporting it, I'm going to keep doing it. So that's all there is to it. I just hear too many good things from, dark art lovers to quit. I feel a responsibility, and I'm actually privileged to be able to do this. So I'm down. So that's it. Okay, let's get on with Bruce Mitchell. Really cool guy. Great conversation. Pretty long too. And yeah, you'll really enjoy it. He's super talented and super insightful, actually. So that's it. All right, here we go. Hope you like it. Okay. What's up, Bruce? We're recording.
Hey, awesome.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I think I asked you a year ago, probably.
Yeah, or a year or two. I don't know. There's
yeah, it might have been two.
It's that time in between now with the pandemic.
Yes, the pandemic.
My first plague.
Yeah, how'd you manage through the plague?
It's killed any social life I had, but it's been good creatively, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Stayed busy.
Personally, and at work too. Eventually, once work opened back up.
Right.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm in my little work zone right here. Actually, you can't. I was telling you earlier, it'd be cool to be able to pan around. I'll grab something every now and then and pull them down. But
Yeah, cool.
I've got my little workstation inside my living room, and then I've got a garage space, but it's so tiny that I have to kind of Tetris it to a usable space each time I do a project.
Well, maybe you could send me some pictures too, and we could do like a Patreon gallery of your work and some
Sure.
shots of your workspace and stuff. So, yeah, for people who don't know, Bruce and I worked together. When did we meet? Do you know when we met? Because you were just
it was I was thinking about that. It was at
one of those
Patrick
guys.
Totopoulos'.
Seems like we know really Totopolis
Yeah,
on the
and it was
cave.
either iRobot or the Cave.
It was the cave. I didn't work on iRobot.
Okay.
That was the movie where I've told the story many times where I was like, I'm getting out of the business. I can't take this anymore.
But that was also when I first worked with you. You're just, I've had it.
Well, it was like, remember it was summer and every day we had to drag all that shit out into the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then it was
stuff that's too toxic to be indoors for the facility they have to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a consistent thing that happens everywhere.
It was so hot. It was in the middle of summer. It was next to a school. It was just the whole thing was fucked up. Oh my God. So that
was the coolest monster you never see.
I know. It was like kind of everything that's bad about the effects business. It was like the amazing monster Steve Wang designed, Totopolis Steve Wang design.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And you don't see it in the movie, and the movie sucked and the conditions sucked. And so it's just like, the effects business can be amazing and great, but it can also be hell. And that was just like, it ticked all the hell boxes for me.
Yeah. Well, I was stoked to, I remember meeting you. What stuck out to me is you were working on your own personal stuff at lunch. And then we started to chat. And I found out that was nothing new to you. It was more than just a hobby. And you had just had, or were gonna have the wall at Cannibal Flower.
Yeah. So that was like
it was the Cannibal Flower time.
Right. So that was just when I was starting my career at my fine art, trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. What a trip. Wow. Just goes to show how long ago that was.
Yeah, you dragged me into that too. The Cannibal Flower. I loved it. It was great. It was a really good thing to be part of, because it became a monthly exercise.
Right.
So you could attend that, and you could see who was just kind of going, I want to try art, and not really being serious. But you'd meet these people that were there every month, and they'd bring work, or they get inspired to do even better work, and they just start to create their own style by the drive of meeting that deadline, that monthly deadline.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was just so focused on making it happen. I was just like, showing up every time. I was like, it's so funny that the cave, the cave was the. I mean, I had been trying, but by the time I got to the working on the cave, it was like, okay, I gotta get out. I gotta go. Yeah, and then we worked at a bunch of other places. Where else did we work together? We worked at Spectral, right? Together.
I work at Spectral sometimes, but I think I missed those. I think I was at K&B at that time. I know we used to see each other at the art shows.
We worked together on some other shows, haven't we?
I don't know. I don't remember. It's
hey,
been
Rick's?
a while.
You didn't work at Rick's?
That was like 2000. I never worked at Rick Baker's. Wow. Never had that chance. So
yeah, maybe I just saw you at like Velasco's art parties and the Cannibal Flower shows. And...
yeah, those have always been Velasco's art parties. I love that crowd. I'm always glad to get the invite.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do conjoin since the pandemic. So hopefully that'll be maybe next year.
It's definitely in the first 3 to 5 conjoins.
Yeah,
first 3.
Yeah, you've been in a bunch of them.
Yeah,
I know. I guess you know what it is. We've probably shown together more in art shows than worked together in the FX business. I think maybe, which is cool.
Yeah, I'd prefer it. It makes it less. It's more celebrating your own endeavor, than lugging it out for somebody else.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you did that and do that as well, because so many people have the opportunity to do it in effects, and like almost nobody does it. I always talk about that, how I expected more people to at least give it a shot when
Yeah.
I went and did it, and kind of was sort of like proving that it could be done. And it was
Yeah.
like nobody followed me.
I think there's people that give it a shot, but it's also I don't know. A lot of times I know myself as a freelancer, it's always a toss up to what kind of schedule you're going to have.
Yeah, and you can't live on that kind of money. That's the thing. And it's like when you get a
Yeah.
steady gig that, I mean, effects gigs pay well, and
Yeah.
art gigs don't pay well, so you've got to basically have another job, be
It's
willing to
still
work another job constantly, is sort of how it is.
exactly. And it's that a lot of times when I have to do that sort of that realistic balance of like, okay, I'll sell my mask. I usually, whatever mask I make, I always sell. I got one that's here, or two that I haven't, but everything else is gone. And I'll get like up to $3,000 or 3,500 so far. But I feel like
Oh, that's cool.
but it takes me a month to make it. And
Yeah, I
live
know.
on
That's
that.
the thing. If you were making those for a shop, like if
Yeah.
you're an independent contractor charging a film studio or production
Right.
company, you would be charging probably like 15 or 20 grand or something.
Oh yeah, easily. But
Easily.
I don't have that.
It's a different market. It's just a different
Yeah,
market,
completely.
You got to be, yeah, it's like you got to be, that's a respectable, around that range would be a respectable price to charge for your services in that industry. But you'd have to be like Ron English or Mark Ryden or something to get those kind of prices in the art world. It's just
The
a
dude
different
I
market.
dig. I know you've talked to him. I haven't listened to it once, but this one, but Chris Cooksey.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
I love his work. It's
you got to listen to his episodes. So good.
not awesome. I will.
It's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones.
We've just chatted back and forth on like social medias before. Like I complimented him on some pieces he did, and he got back to me. He was like, "Hey, thank you very much." And
yeah, he's amazing. He's super cool, super amazing guy. That's
but
so cool.
Yeah, his stuff is awesome. I dig it. And I gotta say, it was like when I saw his stuff, I had made I do a lot of kit bashy kind of make stuff with models, existing model kits, and you rearrange them into something else. It's like collage art, but with styrene. And I had taken a piece of like, it was a military helmet off of one model, a different scale, and I put it on this little. It was a little boy that came with a kit, like a train kit. And then I took an airplane model off an aircraft carrier and put them all together. And I thought, I'm so clever. I'm mixing up scales, and I'm look at this little thing I made. And then that's about the time I saw one of his pieces for the first time, and it was a full on cathedral on a tank treads. Like, oh, holy shit! We blew that style up.
Yeah, it was like I remember I first saw his stuff. I was a fan of his before he started doing that sculpture. Like I knew him through, I think, the Bainart Surreal Collective or something, and I knew him as a painter because he's a really great painter too. People don't realize that, but yeah, he did a lot of amazing paintings before he was sculpting. And I remember first seeing his stuff, and I was like, "Damn it, that mother." I wish I would have thought of that. It's such a great idea. It's like, it's one of those ideas that's so good that it's just a matter of who does it first. It's so good. It's like,
yeah,
it's right there floating around for
definitely done. I've definitely seen it imitated from other artists to like the beginning of a TV show or that some pirate show.
Right.
But and I thought it was his. I thought he did it. I thought, oh, good for him. He did a piece for an opening to a show. But no, I just ripped the style.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just his. Yeah. Anyway, I remember seeing it and just being like, oh, it's a hit. You just every once in a while you'll see someone come up with a style of something they're doing. You just know it's going to be huge.
Yeah,
that's how it is. When I saw his stuff, I was like, oh, this is going to be just huge.
And I guess I bring him up because I find it really inspirational as far as a creative approach at mixed media dimensional pieces.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of niche I think my work would fall into, or how would you call it? It's dimensional work, but it's often it's epoxy and found objects, and it's got sort of things that you do with it, or it's like goggles and
you do a lot. Yeah, but you do a lot more sculpting like in there as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's all Dremel work and
right
refinement, but it's I don't know. It's not really traditional sculpting.
Yeah,
It's
no,
definitely it's a lot less clay work.
it's sculpting. It's just not like clay sculpting. It's like
But it's weird. It's like
it's like marble sculpting or something in a weird way,
right.
chiseling
And
in a way, but
being a
it's with a
sculptor,
Dremel.
it's that kind of thing where I try to classify it sometimes, and I'm doing all the build up work with the putty, and I'm rolling it out, and I'm building up all these like facial features that are, fill in an inlay, but then I go and grind them down. So it's build up, grind down.
Yep.
It's that kind of, until you get to the point where you're using wire brushes and sandpaper and files and trying to sometimes make it smooth, sometimes highlight a texture.
Right.
But it's definitely its own. I don't know. I didn't invent masks,
Yeah, but I think it's you came right out the bat. You were right off the bat. You were just kind of, you had this idea that I thought was really unique, because it's like, it's wearable art. It's like, and it's not like a rubber monster mask. It's like, and it's like kind of like steampunk, but not, it's that's the closest thing I could think of that people would say, because it's like people do that in steampunk, but it's not steampunk aesthetic. It's like, it's more like the way that they will wear pieces of art, that kind of crowd. So it's like, it's cool because it's utilitarian, but it's also very artistically, it's made for the aesthetics and the art of it. And super very post-apocalyptic, which I always love, of course, one of my favorite things.
Likewise.
So it's like just great. So when I first saw you doing those, I was like, oh, what a cool idea. This is one you could just keep going with. It's another one of those where I was like, I wish I thought of that. It's a great idea.
Hey, for the sake of the video, let me grab two.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go for it.
One that's I got an old one and then a newer one, and they're various different styles. And I do try to go for, every time I make a piece, I try to make its opposing figure. I try to keep this pantheon of opposites going.
Excellent. Yeah, grab them. For those of you listening, watching, for those of you listening now, you'll be able to see this when the video version comes out.
So this is an older piece.
That's great. It's so cool.
It's actually left over from that Cannibal Flower days.
So cool. It's so amazing. Wow.
It's very much inspired by that Japanese, that sort of Kamen Rider, Hikater, Power Ranger look. But I wanted it to have this, I don't know, medieval heavy metal quality.
Yeah, the head shape is so perfect. I love that head shape.
Super pleased with that profile, and I just kind of built it up, knocked it down, and added more and grinded it out.
It's amazing.
But it's good. Put it on here.
Yeah, come on, that is the coolest. Yeah, it's so cool.
They always do that, right?
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. It's so cool.
So it's got to do a thing.
Oh my god, it's amazing. I forgot how cool they were, to be honest. That's amazing.
Thanks,
wow.
Man.
Incredible.
There's that one. And again, this is all epoxy clay, and it's a one-off. I've not made a mold of these.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
I don't want to make molds.
Yeah, no, that makes them.
I want to go to the next piece.
Yeah. It's kind of cool it also makes it way more valuable and collectible.
Let's see here if I can kick a light on without washing it out, but pardon my lighting choice here. So I can see the kind of textures that I'm throwing in.
Yeah.
The idea is to always keep it like some of the textures that get into bones, like the rougher spots, and then kind of a coral look, as if it was found and then refined into these kind of shapes.
Yeah. It's so great. It's like you did what I wanted to do when I got out of the effects, which was like, I want to take my knowledge. When I first started sculpting, it was like, I want to take my effects knowledge and use it for good instead of evil.
Yeah, or at least a lot of time. I love the effects industry for a chance to use materials I couldn't afford to experiment.
Oh yeah.
So that's always been great. Let me grab one more. It's different. It's the latest piece I made.
Cool. Wow, you're getting to see his latest piece, ladies and gentlemen.
But it's already been at a show.
Okay, well, still. You don't have to tell. We don't have to tell him that.
It's brand new.
Brand new, everybody.
Butyl is holding nicely.
What?
I had some butyl holding it in place so it wouldn't rock off.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's so cool. Holy shit.
It's this, I think it called it Azzurri Devastato, which is supposed to be like the blue devil.
That's
And,
amazing.
we've got all this is all armature wire hammered into like a rough metal look. It's
wow,
just nice
that's great.
It's really light. And again, put it on and
so amazing.
There's the magnets. There we go.
So amazing.
Let me see. I haven't put that one on in a while.
So cool, man. Yeah, the sculpting is great though, man. Your line work, like your contours and stuff, they're really good. It's like really great sculpture work. And I know sculpting in epoxy clay is a bitch because I tried it.
This has been in my living room though, and it's that thing where it's like you probably do this too. Every time you look at something, you want to change it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Every piece I've got, I want to go, oh, I'm just gonna change it.
Yeah.
Like, make it, but I don't. I haven't. I don't allow myself to do that. I just move on to the next one.
Yeah, it becomes it's. I just was talking to my friend Gabe Leonard last night about that. It's like it becomes its own thing, and you have to let it go and be its own thing.
Exactly. You got
not about being perfect. It's about being. This is the piece of art I make. You know, it's not about perfection. It's about being what it is. It's amazing.
Thanks, man. And then last one, just because it's here. And it's one I made while I was here. But this is sort of the other direction where it's all refined.
Oh, wow. It's so cool.
You can see how smooth that is.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It takes a lot more time.
Yeah,
but it's just a different kind of, I mean, it's the same kind of proportional aesthetics and lines, but now it's got a machine finish.
So amazing. So cool.
And then,
yeah, that's what's great about these is the designs are just killer. Your designs are always killer.
And then I don't have pads in this one yet, but you can see that it comes up as well.
Yeah.
And that comes off.
That's so cool.
So it's got this.
Oh my God.
Wanted it to look like a tactical sort of ballistic, militaristic helmet, but also the configuration or the idea came from looking at an old drag racing photo where it's like the guy sitting behind the engine, the tires are cranked up and he's sitting behind this massive machine that's only built to go as forward, straight ahead without flying apart, and there's smoke coming up from the tower, the tires. This guy's just behind this small steering wheel, and he just had this cool mask on. No, there's no expression to be read off the guy's face. The kind of intensity of all that image made it really kind of aggro looking. And you can see where Big Daddy Roth got his like crazy ideas, the speed and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing work. So, thanks, well, let's get into your history a bit, and because you've been in this business, the effects business, for a long time, and the art world for a long time. So, I mean, how did all of this start for you as a kid? Like, were you a monster kid? I don't even know if we've ever talked about monster stuff.
I don't, I was a Star Wars kid. I was born in 1972. I'll be 50 this year.
Okay.
And so I was 5 years old when Star Wars came out.
Yeah, I was like 10. So I was a Star Wars kid too, myself.
And yeah, it was Star Wars from then on. So, I mean, I liked a lot of monsters, and then I got to know them as I got a little older, like the Universal classics and whatnot. Or
so you remember how amazing it was to see Star Wars when it first came out? Did you see it when it first came out?
Yeah, I was 5.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember it? Do you remember going? And I remember
it was the biggest crowd, the most excited crowd I'd ever sat with. My dad was excited, and he had seen it once, and he was to make sure it was all right to bring the kids to. And then, but I also remember how crowded it was and the cheers and all that.
Yeah, it was lines around the block. It was everyone was so excited.
Yeah.
And then you went and saw it, and it was just like, I remember wanting to go home after and just blow shit up and film it. Like I was thinking, like if I could get some Roman candles, I could take my model, my spaceship models, and I
Nice.
just got a Super 8 camera around that time. So I was making movies, and I was like, I actually started making a couple little movies with spaceships blowing up and burning, and because I just remember seeing all that stuff. It was amazing at the time. It was like so groundbreaking and cool. Just blew my mind. But so anyway, okay, you were a Star Wars kid.
Yeah. So the cantina scene was my big monster explosion, Monster
Right.
Haven. I still love that bit and
Yeah.
all the characters in it. And obviously it continues to inspire other franchises as well. But see, so I grew up around, that Battlestar Galactica, but then it starts into the 80s. There's, Star Wars keeps going, but then you have like Conan and E.T. and Tron and just
So
this
you're
like
like more of a
explosion
sci-fi. You're more of a sci-fi kid than a horror kid.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, I really liked The Thing. That one put a spin on my head, but that was also very much like the cosmic horror kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've always liked cosmic horror, the Lovecraftian kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
Lovecraft works. But
I always loved sci-fi also. My stepdad was a big sci-fi guy, so it was like always split between we'd go out every Friday and see a movie, and it was like either a sci-fi or a horror. Because
yeah,
I liked both, and he was more of a sci-fi.
I guess it was also the horror at the time was more slasher film stuff, and I
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
my obviously as a kid my parents were too keen on it, but as I got older and got into like Fangoria or started to realize that effects were a thing and a job, that's where I kind of leaned into
Hmm.
that side of it. I guess yeah, that was it. Movie magazines were kind of the spawning of the idea of effects as a career. Like you could look in, I even bought some a while ago back on eBay, but I sought out the ones that I remember being very impressionable, which were like Gremlins, 2010, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, Aliens, but they always had movie magazines that came out at the time.
Yeah.
There was no internet the way it is now, so the fandom kind of rolled out of these like magazines that came out at the same time, whether they're all Starlog or Cinefantastique, and all they had all the inside information.
Yeah, especially Cinefix.
Cinefex. So that was the Cinefex was the one that definitely, even when I was younger, it was way more academic or came off academic, right? Because it was lots of text and a couple of pictures.
Yeah.
Which came to treasure later, but at the beginning, I just wanted more stuff. I loved the idea of seeing Ralph McQuarrie or just anybody's like Sid Mead, all the art that goes into a film. I think that's what captured me more than anything else. And I always made models, sculpted.
Yeah,
I could always paint
me
and
too.
draw.
I made models all throughout my early childhood. Car model, hot rods, and the Aurora monster models. That was it.
Nice. I didn't have the Aurora ones. I had the Godzilla one, that's like a glow in the dark.
Yeah.
But only some of the pieces are glow in the dark. It was really bizarre. Then a crushed city under his feet.
Yeah.
And then
did you have the $6 million man models? Do you remember?
Oh
those?
Man, $6 million man was my hero as a little kid.
I had the doll. I had the action figure, and I had the model kits. There was a couple model kits that were like, oh,
I still watch that trailer, sir, or not the trailer, the opening sequence. I think is really badass as far as music pacing.
It is totally, it's great.
Effects at the time. When you look at all that stuff, you realize that's all hand drawn.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible. Yep. Like the whole bionic arm schematic, or the eye, and then the grid overlay, the slow motion running with the ramping up music. It's just incredible. It's really good.
Yeah, it's
all excited by the end of it.
It's so 70s too. It's like, to me, it's like the peak of the 70s, like the good side of the 70s was a $6 million man intro. So where did you grow up?
Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay.
And then Santa Rosa. So like I grew up, my parents split up. They stayed in Sacramento for a while, but then my mom and stepdad went to Santa Rosa. My dad stayed in Sacramento. So I was going back and forth between Santa Rosa and Sacramento.
How far are those from each other?
2 hours. They'd meet each other halfway, like every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I would stay with my dad on and my brother, and we would stay with our dad every other weekend.
Mm,
The weekend it was that kind of split.
yeah.
And then a lot of this stuff, my dad was he was a deputy sheriff, but he was a huge sci-fi fan.
Oh, wow.
Constantly read all the time. I grew up with, and I've still got him. He passed away years ago, but I have the 3 books I remember being just amazed by, and they were Boris Vallejo and Frank Frazetta books
Yeah. My
of
dad
all the
too.
covers.
Yeah.
And then so I grew up with those, and he got into Dungeons and Dragons when I was about 10. Then that was just like an imagination explosion.
Right.
So I would say from Star Wars, the other thing that was the most influential was D&D and any of the role-playing games he was into. But he got into BattleTech and Shadowrun and all these things. So he was a voracious sci-fi enthusiast. I mean, we even did SCA stuff. If you know, do you know what that is?
No, what's SCA stuff?
So the Ren Fair sort of thing, where it's
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
now it's like cosplay athletes, but it's
Right, right.
that was
Yeah.
the Society for Creative Anachronism, and they would all dress up in armor that they made. It's funny, I never thought about this. Is so influential because
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. It's like
that's what I
it's
make
so,
is
yeah,
armor. But these guys would show up, and they were mostly college age guys, which when I was little still seemed like big grown-ups.
right. Yeah.
But they would have their rattan and duct tape swords and shields and beat the crap out of each other at some park next to some playground equipment. But as a kid, it didn't seem strange to me because my dad was
Right.
practicing with them, and he
That's
was
the
on
early
electrical
days
side
of
it.
that too, man. That's
Yeah,
like before it was. Now it's kind of a thing that people do. It's like
yeah.
nobody was doing that shit back then.
No, it was really oddball shit back
Yeah.
then. It was kind of, and he had a lot of oddball friends.
Yeah.
Even though he was a deputy sheriff, he had all kinds of crazy friends. And we used to camp at some of these events. But I remember going, and like the guys would always have their armor and put it on, take it off, like your sports gear. And I'd go check it out and ask if I could check it out. And you'd see these guys made their stuff. There's welds and they're hammering metal to get their shapes. And then you're looking at pads and linkage and all that stuff on the inside. And it was all about how it wore and they could fight in it. So actually, yeah, that was really influential.
Yeah, it's like
on stuff. That's primarily like my bag is or one of the things I'm really good at is armor and making armor fit and work. Most of the time pieces aren't so much sculpted traditionally anymore, especially this, whether it's Pacific Rim or the Marvel movies. It's about taking the 3D assets, right? It's mostly 3D modeled now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take those, but you still have to take all those pieces and make them wear well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You can perform on them, and then the stuntmen have to put it through their paces.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I imagine it's funny because right around close to when I left the industry, we started using 3D printing occasionally. Like I did that, like remember the cathedral head from Hellboy?
Yes.
That was I made a 3D model of that, and we had Gentle Giant did like a resin 3D print of it, and it was like all revolutionary to do
exactly.
that, and now it's like that's how the sculpting's done especially for robots and armor and stuff.
They still fuck it up though, as far as like getting that first one scaled right. There's
The first one we got was all like it was all bent. It was like like melted and bent, and then I think we got a second one that was right, because it was like new technology at the time.
Yeah, printers are really good now. A lot of times the early stuff, more than now, there's definitely a quality that's been adopted, that's to have something that's of substance, and by that I mean it's not going to distort once it loses support material.
Right.
The resins are pretty well figured out. I've got some pretty good examples here that somebody's done for me.
So everything requires though molding again, and then casting, and then sanding and stuff, and adjusting. So it needs that human touch to actually work as a costume, right?
It does. It's very easy. I find a lot of times it's where I'm just getting back into the idea of I got to go digital. It's just a tool I can't ignore anymore.
Right.
I can probably now, with as accessible as it is, I feel like I can make it work the way I want to do it, rather than having to learn to code too much or,
Right.
I feel like ZBrush is what I'm learning now, and I feel like, I got it. I got
Yeah.
this. I got that step. I'm going to start a class, another class with David Igo. I'm going to take his class,
Oh, cool.
studio arts, and that's one that gets supplemented through Effects Industries can sign you up, and it's like an education extension.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn,
So
the times have changed. Where
yeah, man.
they're
So it works
paying,
out.
getting you in on educational classes. That's insane.
Yeah.
I would have never dreamed of that. It makes sense though. So okay, so
Scratch.
what?
I said, go for the scratch.
I know it's
For those of you who can't see,
that's what these good these
pulled
long
out. It looks like a paintbrush to go ahead
long
and
handle
scratch.
brushes are great for back scratches. So okay, but how did you get in the industry in the first place?
So I was in Northern California, and I was living in Santa Rosa, which was very close to a Marin, right? And there was all these things about Lucas Ranch, right? Or Skywalker Ranch,
Right.
Lucas Valley Road. George Lucas lives up here. George Lucas is from here. Industrial Light and Magic was something I started to hear about and pay attention to with all the behind the scene articles. And then I realized they were in Marin. And then it got to the point where I was like, Mom, can we go to, I'd find out about these things just through local newspapers that Marin County would host these Industrial Light and Magic making of. Like I went to Ghostbusters 2 and Willow and all these kind of first run ILM movies, or Industrial Light and Magic's ILM. And they were the juggernaut special effects company, and I happened to live an hour away from them. So I became obsessed with getting into that was going to be my thing. I was going to go work at ILM. And I'd write them letters and they'd correspond back. And it was always that kind of like that. We're not actually looking for people at this time. We don't give tours.
Right.
So then, but they would do those things, and you'd get the movie that they worked on. You'd watch it, and then there was like a how they made it and a question and answer time afterwards.
Wow, perfect for you.
Yeah, it was great. And I've met a lot of people that were there. I used to make kind of Muppety. I made a really kind of Muppety looking costume. It was that sort of costume gag. And this was for a Renaissance fair. We used to go to that a lot, along with, again, with my dad and his thing with the SCA. So we would go there, and I made a costume that had that. It was the illusion where you're riding an animal, but it's like your lower legs are its legs, and then you've got false legs draped over the top of it. And
you made one of those?
Yeah. But it's really, I look at it now, it's horrible, but it was as effects driven as I had gotten at the time. I'd used Roma plastilina clay to make this kind of, I don't know how to describe what he looked like. It was kind of a camel dinosaur with tusks and kind of a silly face. And then I only sculpted the front part, and I sculpted it upright, and I made a plaster, way too thin plaster mold, picked all the clay out, managed to save the mold, got a few pulls out of it, and I made it for a friend and I. It was chicken wire neck with foam wrapped around. And I wrapped the foam, and then I had fake fur on the top where I couldn't wrap where the seam was.
I remember those days, man.
Yeah,
those are like the funnest days when you were just making shit like that and figuring it out.
Great. I felt like $1 million, and I got compliments the whole time. Right. So it was that kind of thing where. And I still like to do costume sort of events like Wasteland Weekend and these kind of things. But it's always fun to spend the time on a costume and then go wear it out to where you anticipated wearing and getting it well received.
Yeah, yeah.
But I met a guy who somebody said, "Oh, I know somebody who works there." It was Howie Weed, and I think he still works there. But he gave me advice, and just talked, oh, that's neat, that's cool. He talked to me a little bit about his jobs, and I think they were working on the latest movie that was going to be coming out it was James Cameron, it was The Abyss. I think they were doing tests for it. Wow. He would talk about CGI, and that was still all a magical small niche at that time.
Right.
I really didn't have interest in CGI.
Yeah.
I liked the monsters, the behind the scenes, the Phil Tippett's. Yeah, kind of stuff. That guy was always one of my heroes.
Did you ever meet him?
I met him at one of those, or at a Jurassic Park thing in Mill Valley. That was one of those films, and he was always kind of that kind of. I'm sure he's you know, you're around those people all the time at work or where we work at studios. They're very charismatic once they're in their group, right? Once you're within the island of misfit toys, you can be yourself.
Right.
And you know, it's where everybody there is. So I met him outside of that, and you know, and everybody's wanting to talk to him. So he seemed a little, not totally reclusive, but not very energetic about it. His answers were kind and brief, but I don't think that's his jam. I don't think that, like, you know, answering everybody's questions about every little step is where he.
I want to get him on the podcast so bad, but I don't have the nerve to ask him.
I haven't seen Mad God yet, but
I've just seen clips. It looks amazing, and I've seen an interview with him, and he seems so cool. It's like talking about
his Vice article interview.
Yeah, is that the one where he talks about tripping on acid?
Yeah, he just opens up like, I was on acid. I was like,
he seems like my kind of guy for sure. Okay, yeah. So how did that?
Oh, so
continue.
I continued to be interested in that. I was a horrible student though. I got shit grades. I always drew in the margins. I never did my homework. I hated school. Even in art class, I got doesn't stick to the curriculum. Like I would always draw monsters and stuff. And that was not the curriculum in art class. I always get a good enough grade to be in the advanced art classes or whatever special thing was going on. But I definitely was not the teacher's favorite, because I was always going to make a guy fighting a dragon or a monster or an alien or robots, and not just the bowl of fruit. Right. That is a talent that I've come to accept, that looks like fruit. Good job.
It's valid. It's just, and my point I always make is it's valid. It's just, so our monsters they're just as valid. It's not that one, it's not like the bowl of fruit is better or worse. It's just, it's its own thing. It's great. But so are like creatures and stuff. It should be regarded as on the same level. That's my only issue with fruit.
Yeah. Let's see. So I went to the local junior college in Santa Rosa. They had a makeup program. I was a communications major. I was staying in school as long as I had to, essentially. And I was trying to get a job at an effects company, or with ILM, right? So I was in the communications classes and theater classes, and I liked theater craft because we're always building stuff. And they had a really good theater program it's the Santa Rosa Junior College, or the SRJC. And they have a really good summer repertory class that the teacher, I was taking a class, and I cut school a lot still. And even though I was paying for it, right? It was my permanent record. Just how we mean it. I'm still like, I don't want to go. And then I went, and he saw a drawing I did it was a day where it's stage design, and you have to draw what's in front of you. So it's like it's drawing the room around you. And it's kind of like, did a horizon line, this, and I kind of did it almost like what'd you call it, where it's the fisheye lens almost. Everything close to me was bigger, and everything it put perspective and shading and a little bit of diffusion, and popped out things of key interest. And he walked by. His name was Frank. He was really cool, but he walked by. He goes, "You son of a bitch!" And I was like, "What?" Like, "You cut my class. You can draw." He goes, "If you want a good grade, you're gonna have to make it up, or I'm not gonna pass you. And you have to show up." And I had to show up to be part of the summer repertory. They called it the Rambo crew. And it's just, you had to show up from like 6 a.m. to 8 o'clock. And you unloaded all the things to get, and built a stage to get their summer theater thing going. And that was really fun.
Yeah.
But it's like, also, he made me do that. He didn't let me get away with it, where everybody else was kind of like, "Oh, well, fail you." And I just didn't give a shit. I hated
that probably was helpful though.
Yeah. But that got me into a prosthetics makeup thing. They had a prosthetics thing. I skipped the basic makeup and went to prosthetics.
Oh, cool.
And then there was a guy who was I called Chris Wallace Inc. I was like, "Who's that?" And he said, "It's the guy that did The Fly and Gremlins and all this." And this guy, he knew everything in the class, but his art sucked. And I would skip his name and everything. It's harsh to say, but it was one of those things where there's the people that sort of collect the info but don't have the talent,
right?
But to have the desire but not the not enough structure to get in, or not
Right.
enough ability. But he gave me the phone number, and I called, and I called CWI, got into the idea of tracking down who he was, or Chris Wallace, and then I told him what I did, and got their number, and then I or got a contact there. And then I worked on, there was a movie that came to town to shoot. It was this horrible medieval movie. It's actually on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Wow.
And it's called The Quest of the Delta Knights. But it was a medieval movie that they shot. And they actually shot at the local Renaissance Fair and all these other areas in Sonoma County, that really woods looking area. David Warner's in it.
Oh wow.
And,
That was that their 1 star?
yeah, but he's got a double part. It's really weird. But and I was so uncouth, but I worked, I did a lot of stuff on that as a PA, right? And I bounced around between makeup and sets, and I was also working at a movie theater at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it set up so it was a super low budget thing, but I got it set up so that they could watch their dailies at the movie theater I worked at. Because we were all like, oh, there's a movie in town. That's amazing. And I loved it. It was really fun. And it was like the circus came to town, and I got to work backstage.
Right.
And that show left. And then I felt I totally had that drive. Like, I want to work on movies. This is great. I want to work on movies. It seemed amazing. Everything about it was fun and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hooked. So I called CWI again and told them that I just finished working on a movie. And they're like, well, come on in, bring some of your stuff, and we'll check you out. And I just brought a bunch of stuff I had made. It was Kit Bash monsters and friendly plastic articulated skulls and whatever material I could play with at the time, and drawings. It was really rudimentary stuff. And I think I was 20, and they said they were looking at it, and you could see that they had that sort of, the way you think back on your own work, they were kind of holding up, check it out, though. It's kind of cool. Or
Right.
it's like, well, look how we made it out of this. It was like, who would do that? You know, that's it. They were giving me tips on what I was doing. And then I left, and they called and said, hey, we got a project coming up, and we could use you. You could start, and you'd be an apprentice, and we'll start you off. And they were like, what's your rate? And I was just like, I had no idea what to answer, and I was just kind of like, it's got to be more than minimum wage. And he was like, how about I give you $8 an hour? And like, that's great. And I was like, it was 1992, so
Right.
that was good enough.
Right.
Yeah, so I worked there for 9 months on a dinosaur amusement park thing called Dino Alive, which went to Osaka, Japan.
Oh wow.
I didn't go to Osaka. There, I think only about 5 people got to, just to kind of finish the big setup. But it was big, and I worked with a lot of the people I'd read about in this Industrial Light Magic book I had, and through different articles. And it was an amazing time just to kind of learn all this stuff.
Yeah, always those are the best times, I think, for me anyway. That was probably the best time in effects, was like the beginning for me.
Yeah,
it was just so exciting, so much fun, and oh my god, it was like died and went to heaven. I get to work on all this cool shit, and you never getting paid for it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It seemed like a lot of money then too. I mean,
yeah,
all I'd ever had was restaurant and tips and movie theater jobs.
Right.
So, at the end they were like, so what are you gonna do next? And I was like, what do you mean? And then it's like, well, this job's ending. Like, I had no idea how the freelance side worked. I thought I was in. So suddenly it was scary again. They were, what are you going to do next? And I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to school. And they're like, you hate school. And I was like, I know. They're like, what would you go to school to do anyway? I guess I'd want to do this. What are you doing now? You got it pretty good. You're going to probably have to move to LA. They'd all say you'd have to move to LA. And this is in Northern California. Nobody in Northern California wants to move to LA.
Right.
Just don't. But it's a small market up there. And if you're up there as a special effects artist, you do everything. You're not just a model maker, creature guy. You're whatever jobs.
Right.
Build sets, specialty props, set pieces.
Yeah, I'm surprised there was any there was any kind of effects scene in Northern California. It seems so. I don't know how Chris Wallace and
well, it was Colossal Pictures, ILM, Skellington's. I had an interview there, but it didn't happen. And after that is when I came down
What's
to Los
Skellington's?
Angeles. Oh, it was they did. I didn't. I was almost on James and the Giant Peach, but they did Nightmare Before Christmas,
Oh, okay.
and it was that whole outfit. And they were doing a lot of stuff for Liquid Television at the time,
Okay.
and it was interesting. But it was also Phil Tippett's crew, not Phil Tippett's crew, but all the motion animation guys. Tom Saint Amon, John Berg, all these guys. I was never a sports fan, and I never got into baseball cards and stats of a sports player, but I knew all my ILM film guys and I knew film guys and Apogee before that was gone. And then it got into the Monster Effects stuff. I knew all that crap back then.
Yeah.
So
I know. I did too. We were major nerds. Nerd alert.
Yeah. So I moved, I came down to LA and I interviewed at a whole bunch of places, and I ended up getting a job at a model shop because I had more models in my portfolio from working at a couple different places. It wasn't just CWI. I worked at Mount World Digital and Midland Productions, which was like it was like Star Tours sort of rides, that kind of, what do you call, motion-based simulation rides.
Right.
Did a lot of those, and that was I was making $13 an hour there.
Wow.
Yeah. Great. But you did everything there. But it was also very obvious when I came down here that whatever you have more of, there's a niche here that occupies that as an occupation.
Right.
So because I had more model work, I went and I worked at a model place.
Where did you live? How did you
I worked with a guy named Bill Weger at Chris Wallace's. And then when he'd come down here and started working at Steve Johnson's on Species 2, and he was a sculptor. And then I crashed at his place for like a week. And then while I was there, I had set up interviews, and I interviewed all over. I interviewed at Rick's, Steve's, or that's Rick Baker's, Steve Johnson's. I think I interviewed at Optic Nerve, Amalgamated Dynamics, or a few others. But and then Grant McEwen Designs just on the fly. Oh, it's Dan Winston's. I interviewed with John Rosengrant, and he was also like, you got a lot of model work. There's guys down the street that do models. Let me give him a call. And he called and set up an interview for me.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really nice of him.
Yeah.
And I went in there, and they're all, great, when can you start? I was like, I gotta move now. All right. And then I worked there for a few months, and then from there I got referred to work at Digital Domain, and I worked there.
Oh, I didn't know you worked there.
Yeah, and I was doing all model stuff for a while, even as Digital Domain was like not wanting to claim they had a model shop or rely on the model shop. I came in on a commercial, I think a Peugeot commercial, then a Chain Reaction, which was a Keanu Reeves, Morgan Freeman movie. And then it went into Fifth Element and Dante's Peak and Titanic. And that was my Digital Domain career. But from there, I went to Imagine.
You worked on all those movies?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Fifth Element had a bunch of cool stuff in it.
I have a piece of the ship from what was it? It's called the ZFX fighter. Zorg flies it at one point. It's this big fuselage looking thing. I love that movie. That was fun to work on, but it was also really weird to watch because we had no idea it was going to be so wacky.
Right.
Thought it was going to be like Blade Runner, but looked like Dick Tracy.
Right.
And it was really strange. It grew on me with repeat viewings, but at first I did not like it.
There's
too bombastic.
It's hard to tell how a movie's gonna. I've worked on movies where I worked on this movie, the Dark Backwards. Have you ever seen The Dark Backwards?
No.
It's like a weird little indie film. It's like a kind of a cult film now. And I remember being on set and just like thinking it was like super weird humor. And I just remember them shooting a scene and just thinking it was the fucking funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was trying not to laugh, and I was like, this movie's going to be amazing. It's going to be so good. And then I remember seeing it. It's just like, it did not translate at all. It was not funny. It was not, I just, that's how I felt anyway. It just was like, this isn't funny. I remember laughing my ass off at the same scene. Why is it not funny in here? But
It's always very strange to be part of something while it's being made and get an idea of what you think the flavor of it's going to be.
right. You
Seeing
have
the end
no
result.
idea. You have no idea.
At our participation levels in these films were really just accommodating the look of a character, or
Right.
augmenting the visual style of a scene. We don't really get that. We don't need to know the motivation of the story, or we very rarely ever get a
Right.
script.
Right.
So it's always kind of. And also, one thing that's always cracked me up about movies is a movie's 2 hours, right? Maybe it's a series and it's 10, but we'll spend weeks and months on it. And you sort of ponder the thing in front of you and wonder, and you build up these stories often while working on them that are so much more dynamic than what you end up seeing.
Yeah.
Or they're so much more well thought out. I felt the most about this recently, or not recently, it's been a while, but Pacific Rim. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, giant robots fighting monsters for real though. All right. And I was all into the idea of, like, I wanted to see these things because they were presented as soldiers, right?
Right.
So I wanted to see, like, the way you see footage of Navy SEALs, like it's all sitting on a Zodiac, the inflatable raft, and they just roll off backwards.
Mhm.
I wanted to see an aircraft carrier with these giant mechs on them, squatted so they weren't tipping, keeping all that kind of concentration to ride this giant craft, and then just kind of like do a dump off the side of it. So you had this massive mech
That'd be
fall
so
into the
cool.
water, splash, or ride these things like surfboards almost, if they could
Right.
hydrofoil up. And we kept, and then when the trailer finally came out, and it was like tiny little helicopters floating this building of
Mhm.
a robot, it was just ridiculous. Like, get the fuck out of here. I love Guillermo's stuff, and he really goes for it for style, but it was one of those things where I just wanted to, if you created a giant robot, why couldn't you have your own sort of NASA tower launch jetpack where it takes off from anywhere instead of walking from the ocean to go fight in the Pacific, but they walk
Right.
from Alaska or something. Not to nerd out on Pacific Rim, but I was very tactically let down by Pacific Rim's understanding of geography.
Now everybody, what it's like to work in effects, right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
It's
it
the
in a
stuff you
nutshell.
love and you nerd out on, and then you work on it and you nerd out on the possibility of the thing, and it doesn't always measure up to your nerd
Yeah,
expectations.
to your nerdy expectations.
It's like at the end of it, it's like, it was giant robots fighting monsters. What did you really think you were going to get?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it succeeded in that. It was a good robot fighting monsters movie, I thought. So what did you move on to that after that?
Oh, let's see. It got into where models were definitely getting their asses kicked by digital technology, right? So it all started to go that way. I went to work at it. And I also, a lot of it's never been a career path so much as there's been things that I've wanted to do or try to hone skills towards, but I've really just kind of answered the phone and did the job of the call that came in if I was available.
Mhm.
So jobs have always led to more jobs. So
Yep.
it a lot of it was a direction I wanted to go, but I can't really say it was a path I chose. It's that my
Right.
interests were such that I was open to doing this, and I believed that I could, and I showed that I could, and I'd take that job, and then those would lead to other places. But I went from uh amusement, so when amusement park stuff, movie models, then back to amusement park, but it was Imagineering at Disney, and we were sculpting in giant block foam. I actually got laid off from that job, which was I was totally fine with because it was Disney, it was the mouse. And it was that thing where it was like I wasn't really larger than my own name on my name tag. It said no store discount. And it's like
Are you
I was like,
serious?
yeah, I wish I still had. Oh, I had to give it back. But it was very Dr. Seuss. And then there was green badges and blue badges. And if you were a green badge, you were a contractor. And if you were a blue badge, you were an employee. So the employees got store discounts and the contractors did not. It sucked. It was that kind of
Yeah.
that they fostered that kind of mentality.
It's so insulting. It's so demeaning. It's just
It is.
demeaning, makes you feel like shit.
But I sculpted foam there, and foam, when you're sculpting foam, it's giant condensed. It's not necessarily styrofoam. I think it's called trimer foam. And the best example I can give is like that floral block foam, right?
Yeah, I love sculpting and that stuff. It's so
Me
so
too,
cool.
but unless you get it, you
Oh,
can't
it's terrible,
get it
terrible.
everywhere. It's like well, it feels like dust and sand, but it's super light and granular,
And
and
it
it gets
gets,
in
oh my
everything.
God, it gets in your eyes. It's a nightmare, but it's like
Did a
it's
side job in my little tiny place for a robot thing, and it's still there. And I bought twice as much. You have to buy giant pieces to do the work.
it just feels so good to sculpt in, but it's a
Oh, it's great.
nightmare. It's a
It's a
nightmare.
great medium. If you're
Yeah.
set up for it, you can walk away clean, and you pretty much have to get undressed to disappear
Yeah.
to do it right. But I track it everywhere.
It's terrible. It's like fiberglass, it works so well, but it's so stinky
Yeah.
and terrible, and chopped glass fibers floating in the air. It's just a nightmare, but it's like works great.
So yeah, let's see. I did that, but using that foam got me into doing creature effects because I heard that K&B was looking for foam sculptors, and a guy reached out, and I went to go, and that was in 99, I think. And I worked at K&B Effects, which I just started back at this week. So I've continued to work with them over the years, which has been fun. I think I'm in there like, it's the third time I've been in a shop of theirs at a different location. They're a company
wow.
that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
And they were, I mean, back then I knew them for, they've done a lot of horror movies, but I knew them for Army of Darkness, which I loved.
Yeah.
Great.
That was a movie that I don't think I worked on it, but it was in Alterian Studios at the time, and I was working on maybe something else. Like, I don't remember what it was. Some other project, maybe Swamp Thing or something. And that was a movie where it came out, and I was like, I hated it because I was like a huge fan. Yeah, I was a huge fan of the Evil Dead movies.
Evil Dead fan?
Yeah. Yeah, the first one. Like I remember getting Fangoria and seeing, when it came out in the theaters, and going to the theater and just being like, this is amazing. And now I fucking love it. It's like the best movie. It's so great. It's weird. It took me like a few years. I didn't watch it, and I thought, I was so disappointed. And then I just randomly watched it years later, and I was like, what was I thinking? This is amazing. Yeah, this is so great. It's
brilliant cheese.
It's so great. It's so great.
It's out loud cheesy. Yeah, but it's like it's got such good timing.
It's
like
brilliant.
They're gonna reach over to they knock that like witch demon down, and you can see her eye, and they're going over to get it, and he goes, wait, get an axe or something like that. Like it jumps up, but it's so good at calling out like jump scare moments or interrupting. Right. It's really funny.
It's excellent. I love it now. It's funny.
So let's see. So that K&B, and that started me off I was at foam. I went from foam sculpting to suddenly they needed foam fabricators, and they were like, foam. Hey, you do foam here. There's more work for you. And I didn't know what I was doing really with foam fabrication, except we had done stuff for that at CWI.
Oh, so this is like the soft foam kind of.
Yeah, it goes to They saw it as foam, but it went from sculpting foam to mattress foam, essentially.
Yeah, that's
a lot of these undersuits.
Very different. Very different.
But then I just ended up being there for a while. I worked on, let's see, Mad World remake, Little Nicky.
There was a Mad World remake?
Yeah. Oh, it's called Rat Race.
Oh, okay.
Whoopi Goldberg's in it.
Oh, I didn't
John
know
Lovitz is in it. It's not really good. Yeah, but it was. I think it's the Zucker brothers attempt at it. And then the coolest one I think I worked on was Ghosts of Mars, which was the John Carpenter thing, but all the designs were done by Brahm.
Yeah.
So, and I was nerding out on Brahm.
You should listen to the Brahm episode of the podcast.
Oh, I'll totally do. It's funny.
It's he's so cool. He's really great.
Great. Guy. And I see him at Chris's every now and then, or at the, and I'm like, hey, what's up, Brahm? I still feel like a little kid nerd.
He's so like just one of us, though. He's such a cool guy. He's so nice, and he's amazing. I was so I nerded out, getting to interview him, and he was just like just another artist in the studio, and we're just bullshitting about having art careers. It was so cool,
Yeah.
so down to earth and unpretentious and cool, and he was just great.
I bumped into him at a Comic-Con. I went with my ex-wife, it was Lola, and went there, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Brom." She's like, "Who?" She didn't know any of this stuff, and
Right.
that's Brian. It was the first time she saw me like totally be a geek about something and go nerd out on somebody. And I got a print somewhere that he did. It's the Soul Forge piece,
Mm-hmm.
and he signed it and everything. And then we talked Ghost of Mars, and then I asked him about there's a movie called Beowulf where they just totally rip his designs, and it's a Christopher Lambert movie.
Mm.
But he was like, "Yeah, they just totally stole it. I don't know, they didn't even credit anything." So
Yeah,
it was neat to talk to him about Hollywood, and
he gets ripped off a lot, or he has gotten ripped off a
for
lot.
sure, and continues to. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he definitely changed the paradigm of a post-apocalyptic flavor.
Right.
But it was everything from post-apocalyptic to steampunk.
Yep.
But I went to a Spectrum event. I got pieces in. Let's see. Let me get to something first. But I met Brom. He was really cool. And I keep bumping into Brom at stages of whatever I'm doing. I always figure it's a good marker to be in the same room. But
Yeah.
I guess I got to the point when I was doing all this stuff and I was getting more special effects jobs. I was doing less of my own work. I was learning all this stuff, but I wasn't applying it. And it felt almost not silly, but kind of lame or cheap or wannabe to kind of create your own art pieces while you're working on these movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody gave a shit about my own stuff. I was doing stuff for these big movies. And I was kind of sort of like emotionally attaching to myself that the work that I had done for these projects. But then you don't even get a credit half the time.
Yeah, that's what drives, one of the things that drives you insane in the business is when, I always say we just pour our heart and soul into it. We care so much about how the work comes out, and then you end up not getting credit, or the movie just is terrible, and it's really
out of your
kills
hands.
you. Yeah.
Also, the success or the success of it, if it's got success, it doesn't mean it's your success.
Right.
Like, well, what did you do on it? No, right. And then they just niche down everything that you did to the point where it's like you might as well not have even had a part to do or with any of its success. Like, how dare you even bring up the name? But it got between that and then like a good job. You did a good job at a shop. Great job. Job's over. Well, we're out of work later. Yep. And you're done. You're laid off. No matter how good and how many late hours and nights you put in, the good job done, it just means you're out of work.
Yeah.
If they have work, they can keep you. If not, you're always tagging on to, what are you working on? There's always that thing where two effects guys show up at a party. It's like the first thing he goes, what are you working on?
Yeah.
And they, but it's out of that, like hoping that they're comparable in their career somehow, but still trying to figure out who's the next job.
Right.
And there's always that. And it feels kind of sad, but it was that thing where that's kind of your life. And I came into this from really loving it. So I started, again, it's like one of those stages, and I find I have to do this a lot, but I had to give myself permission to be an artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's seen as, well, you're a fucking artist. I don't have time for you and your vision, right? But It's like, that is what got me into this.
Right.
So I had to allow myself to get past that voice I would hear and go ahead and do it. Go ahead and try and experiment my own thing. And that's when I started to make those masks, the first ones.
Right.
And then I think you saw like the second or third batch. I started to refine my process. I started to get into goggles and extra bits and magnets and keeping them all together, and realizing that by finishing a stage and getting it solidified, that as long as I didn't have, like mold making, if you don't have any locks and keys, you can kind of continue to build or expand on the piece you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't enough just to do that. I had to get them to articulate and lock into place, which forced me to experiment with like arms that come off of goggles have to be a certain depth to be able to come out and rotate up. So I had to take my masks further back. There's
a lot of engineering involved, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it was experimentation and engineering, and I was enjoying it. And it really made the effects work, turn back into a job I could do and not feel like there was anything that I was not a part of. It didn't matter. It became a job. So whether it was good or bad, I had my contribution to it, and it was my work. But the stuff I was more passionate about was the art I was doing at home.
Yeah, it keeps you
I mean,
sane. I think it
yeah, it
kind of helps
does.
keep you sane in that environment.
I try to encourage everybody to keep doing that. Even like your 9 to 5 thing, that's your job and they pay you, right? You're
Mhm.
paid in a wage. And that wage doesn't always come with like a completion of the task, kind of accommodating acknowledgments, right?
Right.
So it's important it wasn't very important for me, but I always try to express it. I think it's important for most people to have something that they can do that they can call their own,
Yeah.
because everything we do in the effects world, it's like it's a list of people that goes by those credits, and then all the people that didn't get credited.
Right.
But every one of them are contributing to something, and no one person could have done it all.
No.
But it's like there's higher people up the tier that, whether they're the key artist or whatever. It's all that the tribalism of the effects world, right? It's the
Yeah.
tiers of the effects world. So it gets brutal, and it's like the more I'm in it, the more I get more influence, and it's that you've participated so long that you're listened to. So
Yeah. And then eventually you kind of, it's funny because once you get to the top, you become the guy that's just kind of directing other people to do things, and you don't get to do as much hands-on stuff.
yeah,
And it's more like you're just like a guy like Rick, it's like I'm sure he just wasn't able to, he can't sculpt a bunch of gorillas for Planet of the Apes. He can't sculpt everything. It's like, and I'm sure it was frustrating for him to not be able to, like, having to go to these meetings and shit. It's like
yeah,
nobody gets an
that's
effects
the
to go to
lame part.
meetings.
Oh,
And it's like when you own a shop and you're running things, it's like that's kind of what you have to do, which is
yeah.
why I never started a shop. I thought about it for a while and I thought, I don't want to go to meetings. It's like I'll just do less of what I actually like doing if I do that. So
That is a
um
tough balance too, because those meetings, it's like, oh, it's a meeting, but it's really like you're in a meeting with people that do not get what you do.
yeah.
They don't understand the levels of it's like it's that classic thing with sculpting. And if you're sculpting in an effect shop and the producers roll through and you're talking about a face prosthetic or something that's going to be a puppet or even armor, one of them will always say, is it going to be that color? I thought we agreed that they're looking at the clay. I mean, it's like they don't understand, but they have that sort of, I'm in charge, I'm telling you what to do, and you're not listening, but they don't understand the process enough. But they'll still get vocal and shitty about the fact that it's not the color that they picked.
Yeah. It's for
clay,
people.
man.
For people who are listening, that's one of the many running jokes that effects artists have, is that
But it's real.
yeah, and it's real. Say,
It's cliche.
yeah, it's the cliche because but it happens all the time. And it's like the producer saying, is it going to be that color when it's this green clay that we're working on? Or I bet you have weird dreams at night, or I bet you have fun at Halloween. So it's like,
Yeah.
so we would constantly, that would happen all the time, like, monthly or weekly, when people would come by and say that. And every time someone says you must have fun at Halloween, we just kind of look at each other and kind of snicker. It's like,
Yep. And then it's like everybody is kind of like quietly like trying not to. Sometimes you look at them like, did you really just fucking say that? Because we were just talking about that's just what the last guy said. Or I wouldn't want to have your nightmares.
Yeah.
It's like, asshole, my nightmares are about not wearing pants at the store, or it's like it's dumb shit. And I don't have nightmares with monsters in it. Those I have those dreams periodically, but they're like epic, being part of a vision quest thing.
Shit,
Would you ever dream about, this is something I've heard that other artists, and this came around secondhand, that Steve Wang was actually talking this, but that you ever have that dream where it's like you're watching a movie trailer and it's so good and it's really cool and super inspiring, and then it takes you a while after you wake up to realize, I made that. That was all my vision.
Yeah.
And I'm not being a plagiarist by stealing what I had in my dream, or those kind of mental connections to your own work, or that happens a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's funny whenever I have nightmares or scary dreams, it's like sometimes I'll have zombie dreams, but the zombies don't look like zombies. They just like look like regular people. And it's not like if you showed it to someone, they wouldn't think it
Yeah.
was scary at all. But it's just the feeling you have, or I'll have like a big, I remember I had one that there was like this monster that was running across the ceiling, and it looked like paper mache crappy mound, like kind of like that French fry, McDonald's French fry goblins
Okay.
made out of paper mache with like dried mustard all over it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it was stupid looking, but in the dream it was terrifying because it
Yeah.
was
And
so
you wake
fucked
up
up and
heart
weird.
beating. I've had
Yeah.
bad stop motion nightmares. Where it was like a real, at the same time, I'm like, this stop motion's but horrible, but I'm, when you wake up, that dreams are a lot less intense than they used to be. Nightmares when when you're a kid, they're horrifying.
Right.
Nightmare, it's a dramatic experience. But now, monster dreams are always adventure dreams. I've had zombie dreams. I had a cool one within the last year where we were running from zombies, and it was like I don't remember who. In the dream, it made sense, but there was a zombie chasing us, and there was people on a bridge above saying, "Follow the markers, don't kill it." And then I was like, I was thinking, what are these people talking about? They're crazy. And I had a sword because it was a dream, and I take the sword and I like did this kind of sidestep thing and killed the zombie. And they were screaming at us, "Just get up here now!" And we get to this place, and they were really pissed because the zombies were a hive mind type. And if they knew how you killed them, they could avoid it the next time.
That's like such a great idea that it's like you
It
came
was,
up with that. You
yeah,
came up with that.
I did. It was in my dream.
I know, it's amazing.
It's like it didn't seem like my idea in the dream. But they would set traps. They would get them when they weren't looking. Was the trick that they had to do.
Yeah,
so
that's
that they weren't aware of it.
It's kind of amazing. You should put that you should write a script. That's like have you thought about writing? You ever thought about
Yeah,
writing?
I was gonna say that's the other thing I just recently gave myself permission to do.
Oh, excellent.
Was right, but it's also the one I'm writing. It's very like a grown-up version of a Saturday morning cartoon. It's very sci-fi tropes, and it's supposed to be a comedy, which is really weird to write. But I want to have it. I started writing it in April, and it was all synthwave inspired, like bands like Laserhawk and Power Glove and Magic Sword and Dance with the Dead. If you know any of these bands, it's very 80s kind of callback synthesizer music. And you listen to it, it just sounds like old movie trailers.
Right.
And actually, I was working with Norm on Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. He introduced me to that stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I just came up with an idea that I was like, I got to make that. So I've been exploring that. And it was going to be a movie, but now I think it's going to be a Netflix series. It's too damn long. But I guess story-wise, they got one more stop to make, and then they're about to storm the castle and face the bad guys for the last time. But
nice.
I'll share it when it's done.
Cool. Yeah, I've always wanted to write. It seems like it'd be so much fun to write.
I write on Final Draft, and I write on an iPad. Like right now, I got a new computer to get into ZBrush. I actually bought the new computer with my Biden bucks. I didn't realize I had a balance still on the card, and I was looking, and sometimes it feels like the gods kind of go, watch this, we're gonna help them out.
Yeah.
And then, I was like, I got to get a computer. All I got is an iPad, and I need to start getting into exploring my potential in CGI, or computer modeling. And I started to look at my credit cards, and I had my wallet, and I don't have many credit cards. I close them out, and I don't use them. And so I'm looking at the ones I have, and I'm looking at the back, and I'm calling the number to see if there's any balance on it or what my limit is. And the first one I looked at it turned out I recognized it. I was like, what is this one? It's even connected to my bank. And I called it, and it was the EED card. But I'd started working, and I was off, but they had sent like some tax stuff that had been granted. And I had enough to get a new iMac.
Oh, cool.
So I felt like thank you, the gods.
Right.
My oblivious, not paying attention to financial stuff, but
That's
it
great.
worked out great.
So how long you been doing ZBrush?
I did it a long time ago, and I took a class at Studio Arts. If you don't know David Igo, you should actually talk to him on one of these things. He's
Really? No, I don't know
fascinating.
him.
He worked at Sideshow for a long, long time, but he's
Hmm.
also been a ZBrush instructor at Studio Arts. He currently works at Tweeterhead, but again, it's like a statue company, like collectible statues.
Right.
And he's a really creative dude. But he teaches a class. I'm gonna take that. He's funny too, which is always hilarious.
That's good.
Keeps you engaged.
Yeah.
And a total fan of all this stuff. He knows all the nerd lores.
Cool.
But I took a class a long time ago, and I was going to try to make a jump, but it was also at the same time where the movie Life of Pi was coming out, and everybody started to put this green banner up, on their image, and it was basically kind of this protest about
Oh yeah.
the way CG work was being done, or farmed out, or not credited to people. So it was still lucrative at the time. Like, it seemed to be paying better than practical effects, but now it's kind of leveled off, I think.
Yeah, I remember when that was going on. I was
confused by it.
I was like, you think you got it bad? You go work on makeup effects.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to wheel that shit out into the parking lot. Just get started. You're working on a major motion picture, but you got to go set up that pop-up tent, roll out the kid tables, Thanksgiving kid tables,
the 107-degree
heat. Yeah, or whatever the weather. Because you're working with barge or 1099 or toxic, toluene based, stuff. Yeah, it's ridiculous. They don't show that in the making of.
Yeah, right. So I had the same experience with ZBrush. I started using it on. I actually learned it for Land of the Lost for the Slee stacks.
Oh, okay.
At Spectral.
Yeah, the sculptures are still up.
Still there. Oh, really?
Yeah, your thing is still there too. Some of the Guillermo pieces, or like Hellboy pieces, are there too.
Oh, cool. That's cool. But I got I got proficient at it. Like I was working, it was like designing. I don't remember how we did it. It was basically designing the suit, just sculpting it for the sculptors. I didn't actually sculpt on it. I just sculpted the ZBrush model, and it wasn't, at the point where they were going and getting it printed. I think they just use it for reference. But then I got laid off from Spectral, and I was like, okay, this is my cue to go for it. And I'm do my fine art career, because I got laid off. And so I never went back to it. And recently I'm like, getting into this whole reconsidering all, because I used to do digital back in the day. I was doing digital.
You were doing it when I met you. You had done a bunch of stuff for Tool.
Yeah.
You had videos. There was that, I think you were running those at Cannibal Flower too.
Yeah, that's right. It
was
the release.
Bathroom kind of tracking shot, these creepy dark places.
Yeah. That was the release of the DVD, was that show, now that you mention it.
Okay.
When I first put it out, because I like self-produced a DVD. And now with the NFTs, it's like, this is, it's 20 years too early. It's like, this is how you would display something like that. So anyway, I started getting into opening ZBrush and opening my, Lightwave, which is my old 3D program that I used to use. And it was like, on one hand, I could remember all these keyboard shortcuts still, but it's like the interface has changed so much. It's kind of like learning it all over again. And but man, I wish I had. So I'm gonna try and get back into it, because now there's kind of a reason in it, and I really did enjoy it at the time.
I'm digging it. I like it, and it's one of those things where I do get that. And I did this last time, but I think I was more intimidated by trying to fit in. I was working at Legacy Effects, and they were doing it. They've been very pioneering, I think, and some of the better stuff when it comes to additive manufacturing incorporated into special effects, especially on that pipeline and that kind of time-driven pipeline. It's very experimental, and everything's a prototype. But they got really good at using it to where it's definitely their strong point. No other studio does it quite like that.
Are they like printing molds and stuff?
No, they've done that a few times, and they've done it where it's like they've so you do your print, then you capture it, and you're doing it in reverse. But a
Right.
lot of times it's the materials that they want to run can't live in the mold and the resins that are created.
Right.
But that's not far. I'm
Yep.
sure it's getting easier now. And there's probably casting materials in mold shops. I was experiencing this today. I was trying to get them to look at a material I like, clip stuff. Because as a fabricator, we're taking pieces that have already been sculpted, cast, oftentimes painted, and then we'll have it. But we'll always have test materials too, or the pieces of test. And if I like the material, I'll take a Sharpie and write on it what it is, and I'll cut a piece out, punch a hole in it, and put it on a ring.
Right.
So this is the material I liked. I liked it for these qualities.
Yeah.
Can glue to it. It's flexible. It takes a beating.
Right.
It's friendly with other materials. It doesn't reject everything from paint to glue to
the
next step. So I'll save those. But each, the materials change enough to where people say, "Oh, I used FT89." It's all these different numbers and letters, kind of designation materials for urethanes, resins, and that kind of stuff. But every shop has their favorite batch that they like to use. But the more I go from one shop to the other, the more kind of, I know this happens more for mold makers, but I'll bring my favorites along too. And that goes with glues and urethane adhesives and things like that.
Yeah.
Use it one shop, bring it to the other. They always say you're not supposed to, but when you show up from another shop, they're always glad to have you give that information.
Yeah. It only makes sense. I mean,
yeah, it's part of the trade.
There's
a lot of stuff, you write on an NDA. I'm not going to talk about the show. I'd love to talk about the show I'm working on now. It's so cool. And it's always the case, right? It's always something really neat. You can't talk about it.
So can't show pictures of it.
Can't do until it's, my rule is I'll only do it after it's already been out on video, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's had its second run. A lot of people.
What does that mean anymore? Streaming,
sure. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, for free, right? Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. There's so many interesting things with streaming that, like, if you think about it, from my generation, even the kids that right before streaming, we all grew up with Bugs Bunny, right? Mm-hmm. Every kid grew up with the Bugs Bunny. But from now on, it's just my kids don't know Bugs Bunny. I tried to show it to them. They didn't care. There was 50 other things that were more their age or more contemporary or had a better poster.
Yeah, we didn't have the choices.
We had what was on. This is what's on.
Yeah, this is what's on, and it's from the 50s and 60s, and you're gonna like it.
And it's reruns. Right. That's why there's 5 generations of Gilligan's Island fans, right?
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
But nobody knows Gilligan's Island now. Kids these days, they don't know. It's only supposed to be a 3-hour tour.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. So, okay, you can't talk about your current job. What are your goals for the future? What are your big plans in life?
First we get rid of this plague, right?
Yeah.
No, I think more and more I want to do, and I don't know how to break into it because I'm always flirting with the idea of getting into a union or another. And I'm SAG because I did puppeteering, but I'm not current in my SAG because I haven't had a SAG job. And that's Screen Actors Guild. Mm-hmm. And then it's what you have to be in to get paid. But also it's that thing where I'm about 50 and I've never had a job that had health benefits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like I want to do, I guess, future wise, I want to lend myself to art directing. I love building stuff, but I hate building other people's shit ideas.
Right.
And there's so many times that happens. And there's a lot of our contemporaries and people that do the design that absolutely should be doing design that I love.
Right.
But there's a lot of people out there that are just, it's that same, they're the deviant art clique. They steal stuff from deviant art. Everything starts to look the same. They don't understand why it was cool in the first place, or they don't understand why it won't work on a person.
Right.
Or I would love to be the guy that goes, here's everything I've made. Here's what I designed. Let's incorporate my design and understanding of how to make it into the piece you want to make, and
Right.
then hit the ground running from there. I don't know exactly how to get into that other than to make myself more user friendly with the tools that do that. That's where it's like the ZBrush or getting into CG. I don't need to have 1,500 square feet and make a real costume. I can make a very realistic looking image of it and, sell that image. That's all what
Right.
I've done. So I'm more inspired by trying to do that kind of stuff. I'll always make my things, but job wise, I'd love to get higher up in the tier of visual creation,
Mm-hmm.
being part of that, being part of the initial concepts,
Yeah.
being given the script and go, what do you think this should be?
I know. How fun would that be?
It'd be great, man.
It seems like it'd be really cool to be able to actually contribute really creatively, story wise and look wise. And, it's like, it's happened a few times for me,
Yeah,
but
I worked while Priest was being made. I worked
yeah.
at K&B, and that I gotta say, that movie's a guilty pleasure. I don't know if you ever saw it, but
Which?
Priest,
Oh, Priest.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
post-apocalyptic one with Paul Bettany as a ninja priest. This warrior order of priests
Well,
that fight
that's one.
vampires.
Yeah, that's one I should watch again then, because I got so burnt out on making. I forget the name of the director. He was super cool though. Really got so blanking. Really great dude.
I like
Um,
they did Legion as well with Paul Bettany.
I remember doing these tattoo ideas for the crosses on the face, and I spent 3 months just doing photoshops of different ways you could put a cross on a face.
Oh yeah,
It was insane. It was
yeah.
insane. And it was like one of my first jobs where I got to work from home, and because I had been out of the business, and this director liked my stuff and he asked me to work on it. And so that was kind of cool, but I was like, man, be careful what you wish for, because
Right.
it's hard
That's
to
true.
it's hard to do. It seems like, oh my God, I get to just do tattoo crosses on faces and a couple vampire designs. But then when it's over, hey, look at the kitty.
Fuzzy Child's he's hanging out by the door, but I don't let him out.
Okay.
He's gonna walk back in at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Yeah, but that was like one of
So
those.
you had to do this guy's bidding still, right? I don't want that job. What do I want then? No. I think any of our stuff is going to be where, again, you're getting the wage. It's the occupation until we're completely independently wealthy and can just make our own thing. You're always
right
paying bills. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you pay those bills though? I've got to say that the art directors I do work with sometimes, I don't want to bag on all of them. Some of them are great, but there's there's definitely the people that flex. They have the clout and they flex, but they don't have the ideas or the know-how, but they have the
Right.
position and they have it above you. And so that they just kind of wring it out of you. And that's those are the lame jobs. Those are the ones that are not fun, that make you want to leave the business.
Right. Yeah. No,
But, there's also it's also super rewarding sometimes. And it's like, it's the crews that you work with. I love that kind of stuff. I do always want to work with a crew.
Yeah, it is. That's one thing I miss about the industry, is that I'm like on my own. I'm not working with the crew anymore. It's like I'm kind of doing, I mean, I have that freedom now, which is great, creative freedom. But, it's fun working with a bunch of people you like, making something that's cool and fun. I do kind of miss that. But then again, I don't miss the drive. I don't miss getting up every morning and going and driving an hour in traffic and, smelling other people's farts and shit like that. So, there's, it's like anything. There's like I always say, people are going to be annoyed at because I'm saying it again, but I always felt like makeup effects was here. And then I thought being a fine artist would be way up at the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being more like fine arts, like here, which is, it's better, but it's not like, it's not up at the ceiling. better. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
definitely I prefer it. I prefer to be independent and making just what I want to make for the most part. But it comes with all kinds of other things that you never really thought about, like business crap,
Ugh, yeah.
emails, customer service.
I hate email. I'm not good at email.
Yeah.
There's all those things, like I did do that 23andMe, and then it came back, and there's a category they throw on there where it says your percentage of Neanderthal versus the rest of the population. And I had like a 95% more Neanderthal than most of the population. And at first I was like, what? Then I was kind of like, yeah, I do. I hate school. I hate all this structure. I hate all this
Right.
this dumb triplicate form nonsense. This whole
Oh yeah,
fit
bureaucracy
in
is
my
the
niche,
worst,
because
man.
you have to, it's not whether or not you can kill the animal or make a cave a home.
Right.
It's now you have to present this. You have to do all these rules and all
Yeah.
these
Well,
things.
that's how I feel like, the world is so oriented away from artists in general, because
Yeah, or
no.
nature.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say nature. Like,
it's
definitely.
it's true though, but just because like paperwork. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything worse than filling a form out. Oh, it's
All
be
my tax stuff is
organizing.
rolling in.
It's a
I'm
night.
always late.
It's a night. Yeah, me too. It's a nightmare. It's like the worst possible thing, and it's so goes against my nature. But
Yeah,
it's
it
like
drags on the
that's
soul. It's just
yeah.
crap.
But it's like that's the way the world is, and that's kind of the way the world has to be to function. I think. I really, it's a necessary evil. I think. What's the alternative? Fight.
Plague.
Yeah.
Runaway plague. No, I agree. Because I do want this. I mean, as much as I dabble, and I know you do too, it's like very dark in our expression. And it's always like the post-apocalyptic world. And it's kind of just where you let your imagination look at the world, and it's the runaway view of it.
Right.
But I do recognize the need for order, but I want that order, and not to be like, utopia, but I want that order to suddenly be seen not as endorsing or encouraging or being the foundation of like a greedy culture. I feel like we
Right.
are too much. It's that capitalism's become, that sound like a commie, right? But capitalism is turning into like cannibalism. I
Right.
can barely, I make a good wage and I can barely afford to live in the town I live in to do the job I can't do anywhere else.
It's insane. Yeah. It's
It's really
insane.
crazy. And the price of housing, and you listen to nowadays, everything's talking about supply chain failure. And that's only because we outsource everything to get it done by
Yeah.
cheaper labor so that profits can be higher. So it's that disgusting side of watching order work, but not for the betterment of people.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what started this self-righteous tirade, but it's just like, I don't think this is the way we're supposed to live our pinnacle existence.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I'm kind of like an optimist, and I'm always sort of like looking at life in a way I'm kind of one of those everything happens for a reason type of people, because I can look at my past, and I guess because I'm happy where I'm at now, I can look at
Yeah.
my past and be like grateful for all the bullshit I had to go through and all the terrible times. And so all the terrible times that are happening now, I just kind of like think the same way. Like they're leading. I'm an optimist. They're leading. They're here for a reason. Nothing doesn't happen for a reason. I know it sounds naive, and it's easy for
No,
me to say sitting here.
it's
And
the
but if you're in a war zone or something, you're not going to be saying, "Oh, it's all for the betterment of everything." But you know what I'm saying?
right.
There's no
Yeah.
answer. That's the
And
that's
we are
the
lucky.
answer.
I have not lived in a war zone. I
Right,
didn't
right.
even have to join the military. I always flirted with that idea, but I never did. And I think I sleep well for it, better for it. I gotta appease the furry child.
Okay. Yeah, there's just no answer. That's all there is. It comes down to it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's no
And
answer.
I could bitch all day about whatever, but I feel pretty fortunate to be a simian in this world, yet express myself the way I want to.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty damn great. Can't complain too much.
You know, I gotta say one thing. We were talking about art in the future, and then I gotta say I want to do more art. And they're saying it's just about I'll take this over this
That's
right
what
now.
I.
I'll take the fine arts thing a little bit more. I like it for the idea of I love working with other people, but I also feel like I can take what I've learned and put it into the stuff that I make. And I
Right.
haven't been doing much of it. I don't have the space I used to that I was making these masks more often.
Hmm.
And then I've got kids now too. They're
Right. Right.
12 and 10. They take a lot of attention.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I still
those are my granddaughter's ages, 11 and 10.
gotcha. Yeah,
Awesome.
they're grandkids, man. That's right.
Yeah, I
I think I
know.
met them at Monster Palooza.
Yeah, you probably did. Yep. Yeah, they're
Uh,
super cool.
I definitely want to do more art. And I gotta say, I've always been real. I have never done a solo show. I've always been part of a group show.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'll start to make a couple pieces, then a couple group shows will pop up, or Monster Palooza will pop up.
Right.
I'll take those and I'll show, but I'll sell them. So part of me, it's like, do I work solid for 2 years to build up enough stuff to get like the small room at Copro?
Right.
Here's my dream. I would love to have the small room at Copro, and have that next to, somebody else, whether it's like one of your shows or something. But I want to have at least a wall or
Yeah.
5 or 6 pieces to show not only like, oh, there's one piece, but what I always try to show is a recognition of the opposites in a pantheon. And by pantheon, I always think of, the Acropolis and the Greek gods. But then you've got your Norse gods. You've got every culture has their
Right.
gods, and they've all got their Zeus, right? They've all got their Odin. They've
Right.
all got their hierarchy. But I love to try to make characters and express that. And then by showing the one in charge, you always have the minions, and the minions are somehow opposing each other for the same bit of power at the same step they're on. And then have these kind of relationships
Yeah.
where they all get to be different, but they're all similar.
I
I'd
mean,
love to be able to do
yeah,
that.
I think you would be if you had the appropriate amount of time and the funding to do it, just to focus full time on it. Can you imagine what an amazing solo show you'd have?
I thought about it. I
It
mean,
would be so cool, man.
there was one time do you remember Congregation of Forgotten Saints?
Yeah.
So I was showing there, and I had my best week ever there. A musician came in and bought, and by the musician, he's a rock star. I'm gonna skip his name, but he bought 3 of my pieces in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
He was like, he came in, and I had 5 pieces there, shown all at once. And they were a lot of them were the ones I had made at Cannibal Flower. And I wasn't quite selling at Cannibal Flower because I was asking too much, but I got into there. This guy comes in and he goes, I really like these 2. I can't decide between. And he tried them on. And then he said, I can't decide. I'll take them both. And then he's like, what else does this guy have? And then he bought a 3rd one that week. So I
Wow.
made like
That's so
10
cool.
grand in a week. And that was really good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had a falling out with them in that they sold one of my pieces, and that was always the intent, but they sold it to somebody who wanted to use it for a movie. So
Oh.
it's the poster of Hostel 3 is a character I made that I had no intent to be part of Hostel 3.
Oh,
And the
wow.
lady that who runs that place sells to this guy a lot. And
That's
I told
that's
her,
not cool. That's not cool.
well, she didn't really know it was happening at the time.
Ah.
And I didn't understand how much it was going to hurt her business or get her in trouble. But I told her, like, I was like, well, yeah, you make clothes and you sell clothes and they end up in movies, but I'm not making hats.
Right.
This is different. And I got into a legal thing. Really not, I didn't have to get a lawyer, but I told them that I made them, they got it for 1,900, I think. It was just under 2,000. And it has goggles and it's got manzanita branches for hair. It's a feminine character. It's got leather kind of headdress. It's a neat piece.
Mm.
But they bought it and used it in the movie and then tried to get me to sign something. And I was like, I'm not impressed. I work on the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I charged you to do it, I would charge you this much. So I made them pay the difference. And it was only $2,000 more. I said,
Right.
it would have been a 2-week job. I'd probably charge you $4,000. You're going to pay this much more.
I should have charged him more.
Well, it got her in trouble with her regular client, and I was going to have
Uh,
a bigger solo
that's
spot.
bullshit, though. That's bullshit
Yeah, but
to
it's the
use your
business
thing.
side of it. It's the schmoozy Hollywood
I
dabbling in
know,
art.
but you know
I
what?
don't feel bad about it,
They
but
know, they know better than to use something like that and then come at you and say, "Hey, can we use this in our movie?" You know
well,
what
if
I
you look
mean?
up Hostel 3 now, it's the poster for it on the stream, whatever streaming service is on.
Wow, wow.
People send that to me all the time, and I don't have a good
They
picture.
do that shit on purpose. They, you know, so that
I
they,
know. They're fuck this guy. We're gonna use that poster now.
yeah,
I
no,
told them they could do whatever with it, but they had to pay me more.
right, right, right. But
Oh,
but it's not like they asked first, and they knew, you know, they know.
yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty backhanded.
But whatever, that's cool.
But
I mean,
it's one of those things. Sometimes I wonder if I could have played that better. Coulda, shoulda, would is. That one
yeah,
messes with me sometimes.
yeah, you know, I mean, I
Tell me.
remember, I gotta look this poster up. I remember I got Hostel 3. What? I don't see it.
It's whatever streaming channel it's on.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I remember just one time I got asked to
And I'm so bad on the computer now. Like I'd go and I'd look it up for you, but I'm afraid I'd lose
that's
the
all right.
conversation.
I'll look it up
I'm
after.
like trying to learn CGI, right? Or
Right.
how to do ZBrush, but I can't even send a photo album without sending my whole Dropbox. Or
I was gonna say you can kind of go too far the other way because I remember one time I was got asked to put my paintings in a movie. It was like a pretty big movie. I mean, not a huge movie, but you'd know it if I told you. And and I got some advice from someone in the fine art world on what I should charge because I didn't. It was like renting my artwork,
yeah,
and they told me, "Oh, they're not a person that works in the movie business. They're like, oh, charge this much per piece. They're in the movie business. They'll be able to afford it."
yeah.
And I was like, that sounds high to me. I'm from the
That's
film
their
industry.
advertising. Yeah.
It's like that sounds too high to me, but I don't really care if it's in it or not. You know, it might even be a bad reflection of my artwork if the movie sucks. So I
Yeah,
quoted the
man, it
price.
was Hostel 3, so I'm not really hurt.
So I quoted the high price and they're like, okay, no, never mind. Bye. You know, there was like there was no like it was so far out of their range that there was no like back and forth or anything. So I
Yeah.
was like, you can go too far the other way too by trying to get too much money when it comes to something like that. But you had the upper hand because
Oh
they
yeah,
kind
they
of
had
used it
used it
without
already.
asking. You know?
I could have asked for I could have like wagered like, well, what's the if I wanted to go for a maximum amount of money, I could have been evil and thought like, what's a lawyer consultation run these guys? And it's gonna
Right.
be way more than what they paid me, right?
Totally.
So I could have done that and figured out. So yeah, 12 grand. That's what I
Yeah.
want for it and get
Yeah.
12 grand
You
for
could
it.
have gotten it, man, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
You could have
But they
gotten it.
fucked up. They used it. And then it's like, do we really want to
They can't go
that's
and
how
cut
many
all
days
that
of
out.
shooting,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. It's going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to deal with
Yeah.
that mistake.
But I made them give me a credit too.
Oh, that's good.
So
That's
I
good.
got that.
You got you got one of your art pieces in a
I got
movie.
the shit amount of money I was asking for and my credit. You know?
Yeah, but no, but you know what? It's different. It's like you weren't a work for hire. You got your piece of art in a movie, and that's different. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
actually cool. That's like I worked on this movie called Bliss. It's like this kind of indie horror vampire crazy movie. It's insane. And I did a painting like it's about an artist and she basically is turning into a vampire and doing all these crazy drugs while she's painting this painting. And I painted the painting for it. And they let me design the painting and I got a front card credit for the first time in my life. Never in the movie business did I ever get a credit up front during the
Wow.
credits. Yeah. And even though it was like a low budget movie, independent movie, to me, it was like cooler than having my name on Planet of the Apes or any of those Grinch or whatever, because it was like, they came to me and asked me to be in it. And I got to do my thing. I got to design the painting and so it was like it wasn't like a work for hire in the same way that
No,
it
that's cool.
used to be, so.
No, I
And
would
so that
feel
was
that
like a
way
big
too.
achievement for me. And that's cool it is cool that you got your art piece in a movie. It's different than being a work for hire.
I've also done things where I rented them to a commercial,
Oh, that's cool.
and then that was cool. And it was a commercial I was working on, and there was a production designer. His name was Bruce too, and he was really cool. He had done art pieces. We clicked on art. It's like we did Hollywood stuff, but then we talked about our own personal artwork, and he'd done stuff for, I think, the Surfrider Foundation, and he had done these really cool sculptures of sea animals, but they were almost out of, they looked like they were wounded and somehow reformed to look like rust.
Mm.
It was about saving the environment, right?
That's cool.
That's pretty much what they're all about.
Right.
Surfrider Foundation is actually really cool, but it's that kind of thing where it's his art was in style and kind of, it's that modality. It's like, I like what you did there. I can see how you get to that point. And I showed him my masks and stuff, and he dug that. And he's like, I need some props to fill up this space. Would you rent me that? Do you still have it? I think he gave me like $600 a day for each mask. That kind of
Oh,
thing.
cool.
And it was just in a commercial. That was that only ran for a little bit.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
it was still neat. I
Yeah.
got my own stuff, and it was to have it kind of brought in on the side. That was while I was working for Legacy Effects, and then I just kind of did it on the side too. They had an assistant run down and pick it up. It was at that same gallery, and she wanted to, this. What's her name? But it was her place. I'll remember it as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
But she wanted to rent it out, and it's like, I'll rent your stuff out for you, and then she'd get a piece, and I'd get a piece. But it would be like, but these pieces are very fragile. The pieces I showed earlier, they're, if you dropped any one of those, it would break like a dinner plate. And it becomes a total jigsaw mess to glue back together.
Right.
I've probably done it, especially with my older pieces when I was figuring out how to make them, but I wasn't comfortable with having her rent them out.
Right.
I think she kind of thought like, well, why do you get make the money on it? It's because it's my art.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
There was a lot of lessons in that. I liked that place too, though. It was again, it was called Congregation Forgotten Saints. It was on Melrose.
Yep. I went there once, I think.
Blank on her name. But they had really cool artists showing. Camera Cam and good God, Jeremy Cross. All these guys that we still see.
Yeah.
But it was imagine like Hot Topic for real rock and roll bands.
Right.
It was a very kind of dark rock, trendy clothes.
Yeah.
High-end couture, like professional design.
Right.
Unique items. So it was cool to have pieces in there.
Yeah. Well, I definitely hope you continue creating your own original work, and I just think those masks are such a great idea, and it's such a rich kind of theme.
I'll tell you, I never get, a lot of times people talk about the art and they feel trapped by some artists we know, they get stuck and they kind of feel like they're trapped in that thing and they want to escape from it.
That's what,
I don't want to just do masks. I got all these other things. I'll send you photos because I'd love to show what's right.
Yeah. No, we'll do like a gallery in the Patreon of your work.
But I don't finish one mask without having an idea for two more.
Yeah.
So I'm sure with your work too, because
that's why I chose monsters behind you. Yeah, I'll never get bored. I'll just never get bored painting monsters. There's no way.
But it's also that's that same kind of facial structure. I see all my guys have that kind of. There's a facial structure, whether it's a machine or something organic, that I really kind of lock in on jaw lines, cheekbone, cheekbone to mouth, and we all have our ways of doing it, and what makes it look our style. I never felt like I had a style until I had several pieces. I could look at and go, oh shit, I see a style,
Yeah, you have to. I mean, that's how you develop your styles. You create work.
Yeah.
That's it. You can't, that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's not like as an artist, you go, okay, this is going to be my style. And you imagine it's like, it doesn't work that way. It's like your style is something that develops organically just from creating work over and over,
My kids are both pretty artistic. My daughter doesn't draw as much, and I'm trying to encourage her to do it more without making it a chore.
Right.
I can't make it the things she doesn't want to do. But
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
son is always drawing. He draws the
Oh,
same
cool.
stuff, and it's monsters and characters
All
and
right.
landscapes. He's way into it, and I'm showing him all the movies. He's 12, so I'm trying to keep it pretty appropriate to his age. But we'll have days where it's like I'll have him and my daughter will be with their mom, and then it's like, okay, you want to watch The Thing and
Yeah.
do these kind of double features, right? And then we did Blade Runner a little bit ago.
Cool.
But I'm constantly bringing him up, and he's like, Dad, how do I develop a style? That kind of thing. And
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
he's really, he's also that point where I see so much of myself in him as far as like not being great at school and but constantly drawing, stuck in his own things, to his own detriment.
Right.
All those kind of things. It's like watching somebody repeat all the mistakes that you made and trying to encourage them without being overbearing. It's really, it's an awesome, rewarding, complicated dynamic. But
it's got to be. He sounds like an art kid to me.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah,
his stuff's great, and I try to help him all the time, and I definitely, he draws enough to where I'll tell him like, I like this one a lot. This is really good. I was like, you definitely draw better than I did at your age.
Right.
You're way ahead of me. You're probably where I was. You're 12 now. I didn't draw that good till I was at least 14, 15. Right. Here's what I like about it. I'll give him all the compliments. And then he'll show me other stuff and I go, that's not good. This is horrible. And why don't you put your stuff in a binder? Because I'm tired of seeing your wrinkled drawings. That kind of stuff. So I'm tough on him too. I don't praise everything.
Right.
And then I'll be rough on him sometimes, like not congratulate him just for the mere doing of it. It's got to show effort. It's got to show that he's getting better at something. Then I'll praise him for that. Right. And I always find that he does better when I'm a little bit tough on him. So it's that role as a dad, trying to curate the talent that I had. I didn't have anybody that was artistic when I was a kid, for me. But I'm trying to do my best to be encouraging and teach him what I can, and let him flex his style, let him discover his own thing and his own way, but give him pointers along the way.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, but it's really rewarding, and I dig it. I can't wait to see what he's going to turn into.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's all that other stuff, just being a kid and a boy in this day and age. And
oh my God. Yeah.
Access to everything.
Yeah. And the plague and all this
and
crazy shit.
Oh my God. It's been rough.
That
kind of like not being in school thing was tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I kind of experienced it with a nice distance with my granddaughters. They come over like every weekend pretty much, just because it's fun and they like it here. But we've experienced, and they maybe stayed with us for a week one time when they were, doing the remote schooling. And it's like, yeah, I could see this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
For everybody. But I was able to not have to really deal with it.
Yeah,
it's so great.
We built forts inside, and I let them stay up for weeks, months, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They had I have this camouflage net. It was back here off this bookshelf behind this couch, and then we let them keep it. And we put small tables in there and Christmas lights, and it was like their little extra room hidey hole.
That's so cool.
And it worked out all right. They'd make stuff in their room, and
I got to tell you, man, it's so much fun being a grandparent. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's all the benefits and none of the bullshit.
None of the dishes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so much fun. It's like I feel like I'm older, so I can really appreciate how fast it goes now too. And so I'm very mindful of like, this is not going to last very long. Actually,
I try to impress upon them that also like, look, you guys want nothing but to grow up right now.
Right.
But your childhood is actually really brief.
Yeah, you're going to just you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to get back to it.
Yeah, you're just going to get older. That's all that happens from then on. My kids will make fun of like, Dad's bald. I let it slide. And then I tell them, my boy's 12. I go, yeah, I started losing my hair when I was 15. It didn't really happen until I was like late 20s. But he goes like, that kind of goes like, yeah, this is your future. But enjoy your childhood.
Yeah. And it's, youth is wasted on the young. They say it's so true.
Yeah.
You can't understand it. It's a process every human being has to go through.
Well, how old are you now?
54.
54. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be 50 this year. It's funny. I think about that statement sometimes, but also I don't think I would be where I was if I didn't just kind of live and relax when I was young. It's like, what would you do if you were young again?
Yeah. Right.
What you really do?
Yeah. I don't think I would. I
Because it's
wouldn't.
like, let's say you're young again. Let's say this is existential talk, right? Amongst artists, not talk about art. But let's say you get to go back to your youth. It's not time travel. You're young again. You don't get to go back and like invest in Netflix or something.
Right. Yeah.
You're young again. What do you do?
Yeah. I would. I mean, I. It's funny because I always think, oh, I wish I would have started my art career when I was in my 20s and not when I was in my 30s, because I made this total shift after I'd been in this career for like 15 years. And so it's like I wish I would have just started there instead of effects. But then I'm thinking that part of the reason I'm able to paint as well as I do and sculpt is I wouldn't be as good of a sculptor, painter. My artwork wouldn't be as good if I didn't spend all that time in effects, because I was getting paid to study anatomy, to become familiar with materials, to sculpt and get all the feeling of clay. It's like so much of creating art is like an unteachable thing, like how hard to push on the clay. You can't teach.
Ripping that skin under you ever you sculpt so much you tear that
yeah. But I mean, just like how much pressure you put when you're using a rake or something, you can't teach that. It's like the only way to learn it is by doing it. And it's like that with oil painting too, is there's no way to tell you how much paint to put on the brush and how hard to drag the brush all across the canvas. It's like the only way to learn it is by doing it. So I feel like I really was lucky to spend all that time. It was really like kind of going to an art academy in a weird way, like having tons of reference everywhere, all the skulls and bones and all the best anatomy books.
Also, it's that kick in the ass of a colleague demanding that you keep up. Or
right. Oh yeah.
There's nothing like the pressure of the people that you look up to looking over to you and like, are you going to hold up your end of what you're supposed to do, or are you going to be the weak link?
Well, that was for me. That was when I got over to Rick's. It really lit a fire under my ass and made me realize I had a long way to go, because I was working around Mitch Devane and Kazu and Matt Rose and Steve Wang and Norman, and it was just like, yeah, this is the big time. And I don't know if I said this on another podcast or in some interview, but I didn't.
Right. This is our conversation.
That's right.
That may be 232, but
you're 231.
That's 231.
Right. But I get going there and seeing, like, especially the work that it was Kazu too, the work that Mitch and Kazu were doing, detail wise. I didn't think it was possible to do it. Like, I'd never seen work up close like that, because I was at Alterian for 10 years, the first 10 years of my career. And I was sort of like the lead art guy for most of the stuff. And it's like, I didn't know about, the texturing tools of Mitch Devane and, so I just went there and I was like, wow, you can make it look exactly like the real thing. You could make a sculpture. Mitch can sculpt an exact copy of a life mask and get every single pore exactly. And it's like, I didn't know you could do that. Like with the
characters he'll do.
Yeah. But the cat,
and then it's refined
cat brush and plastic. It's like, I'd never heard of any of that shit. So it was great. I spent 5 years there and I just became way better in those 5 years. And so
nice,
so I like getting back to the point. I always think I wish I would have started younger, because now it's like I'm at a good place. My art career is finally like, I'm not sweating every single month.
Right.
And it's only been like since the last few years, maybe.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks. But I'm like 54 now.
Dude, that's fine. If you, this is that coast in, this is the thing. It's like, I want to get there. So where I talk about Cooksey and these. I need to fold into that soon because I'd love it to be kind of my retirement scheme, right? If I can do, I don't want to do the thing where I'm retired. I'm going to read all those books and not travel. It's like that's when everybody dies. If I get to a retirement age and I can, I'd rather just make all the stuff I want to.
Yeah.
Somehow generate a comfortable income. I mean, that to me is the ultimate goal, is to do what you want when you want.
Yep.
Yet be able to live off of it.
Yep.
Still push yourself. Don't be lazy about it. You know, you need to maintain that discipline or you might as well not be alive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be a vegetable.
Yeah. That's the thing, you know, I'll never stop working because it's what I would love to do anyway.
Yeah. I guess by vegetable, I mean just some mouth breathing, TV watching person.
Right.
I don't want to exist like that.
Well, that's not, you'll die like that because it's not, you know, that exciting or fun.
Yeah. Doesn't keep you.
But well, shit, we're like at 2 hours, so I'm gonna, we're over 2 hours. So
that was easy.
Thanks for coming on the show. It was amazing. It was great. I just want to see you keep continuing expressing your own unique vision with your work.
Thanks, man. I'm going to show you a couple of things here I've made over the pandemic. How about that?
Okay.
All right. Then I'll be quick about it. It goes into
you people listening. Tough luck.
Yeah, exactly. You have to watch the video, or I'll post pictures. Yeah. You're
gonna have to wait for the. You have to join the Patreon, and to see the video version. Whoa!
See this? Yeah.
No way.
Articulated, and then it's posable.
That's so amazing. Holy shit!
And it's supposed to be like a hornet.
That's
not
so
a murder
cool.
hornet, but like, you know, the bumblebees. It's supposed to have that kind of proportions.
That is so.
But this is all
cool,
kit bashed, and it's all
I would
model
love
pieces.
I would love to do something like that. It looks so fun. Oh my god!
I went way into the weeds on this project, and then here's the goggles that are supposed to control that nano machine. So,
oh man, that's awesome.
Like, ski goggles, and again, greeblies and nernies that get over that. And then it's got. I'll send you pictures of those, but there's another version. That's a smaller one. Again, it's always like opposites or pairs or corresponding pieces. But that's all the kind of stuff I've been creating here.
So great.
So, not just masks. I want to do a show that encompasses all of it.
Right.
Do you think that's feasible? Like,
yeah. You know what?
This goes with masks.
Absolutely. Anything, you know, here's the thing. My perspective is anything is possible. The trick is you've got to get a fan base that's interested in whatever you're working on.
I guess making it and presenting it, and it's gonna let you know really quick.
Yeah, I just think if you market yourself to if you get your audience that likes what your vision is, and they want to see what you make. It's not like they're coming to you for your masks. They're coming to you for you. They want to see what you come up with. So anything you make, they're going to be stoked about, you know. It's cool. Like I'm lucky. I was able to get a really loyal kind of cult fan base for my work. And they're into the
tattoos, man. That's awesome.
It's like anything I do, they're interested in seeing, and it's like it's amazing. And so it's what I always wanted. It's not like everyone's just like, oh, do another monster painting. It's like they're into the sculpture, they're into when I paint a dog, you know. It's like
awesome.
So if
I got you, I do that the same. I follow people the same way. So
that's like
it up to that.
You know, that's like any great artist or band. You know, when you really love them, you don't want to do the same thing. You want to know what they're into and what they're doing, and that's what is exciting.
Good point.
So, you know, you just got to keep building your fan base up, basically, and keep promoting and marketing yourself on social media, I guess.
Awesome. I got to get more on that. Hey, this has been a pleasure, man. Thank you. This is really easy. It's good to talk to you.
I knew it would be so much fun. I couldn't wait to have you on.
I hope it's cohesive to listen to.
Oh, people are going to love it. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. That we just have to do the sign off first, and you have to say goodbye, audience. So say goodbye, audience. That's the stupid sign off I came up with, and I keep doing it. I hate it.
Also, I go by the conceptual executioner, so you can look that up. Nobody's stolen that moniker.
Oh yeah,
So you can be able to find me on
Conceptual executioner. That's
Facebook
right.
and Instagram. I'm not on it as much as I probably should be. It's actually, I find social media to be kind of testing sometimes.
It is, but it's the
I
only
gotta
game in
mark myself
town,
through
man.
it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to do it. You got to do it. Do reels. Go on Instagram. Start doing reels. I'll talk to you off the when we're done.
Right
But say goodbye, everyone.
Right on. Hey, it's been a pleasure, everybody. If you made it this far, thank you very much. That's it's been a real good time just to catch up and talk to Chet. So I'm
It was
glad
awesome.
you're digging it.
Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.